Sorry, someone's banging next door.
Are you still building the studio? Oh my God, that's so loud.
Hang on one sec. Right, we're back.
Well, I was wondering if that was someone building a bed for you so you can sleep in the office. I'm Martha Kelner.
And I'm Mark Stone.
And on day 26 of Trump 100, how RFK Jr. plans to make America healthy again.
And why Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth is taking aim at Europe.
But first, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Washington, D.C., and Donald Trump is talking trade. President Trump kicked off another busy day by delivering on his promise to place tariffs on most of the world.
And on trade, I have decided, for purposes of fairness, that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them. No more, no less. In other words, they charge us.
Mark, fill us in on the details of these tariffs, if you don't mind. Who do they target? How will they work? And I guess crucially, will they actually happen? Or is it the case, as with so many things in Trump's world, that they're just a starting point for negotiations?
Who do they target? We don't know. How will they work? We don't know. Will they actually happen? We don't know. Are they really a negotiation starting point? Maybe. But guess what? We don't know. It's not just us. Governments globally are genuinely trying to keep up with it all, to decipher what the announcements mean. And I'm told even that some White House officials don't have the answers when diplomats from other countries have meetings with them.
That's remarkable, isn't it? Because usually before the public sees these meetings happen, sees these announcements being made, everything's really being decided behind the scenes and it's just all about the show. But in the case of this Trump administration, governments across the world are finding out, as the general public do, about what's going on.
Yeah, it's so true. It is. When you go to summit, whether they be a NATO summit or a big trade summit between governments, by the time the leaders turn up, everything's been decided, as you say, and the communiques have all been written and they just turn up for the show and sign things off. That is absolutely the opposite of what is happening in every sector here with the new Trump administration. In terms of tariffs, here's what we know. Trump has essentially announced that every country that places tariffs on US exports would face the same tariffs on any goods they send to the US. Crucially, though, this would include VAT, government subsidies, and exchange rate policies. So it's pretty broad. Trump has said it's all about leveling the playing field, making things fair, as he would see it. And if other countries want this tariffs lifted, then they simply reduce their own tariffs, and then the US would do the same. But I think for countries globally, they knew there'd be some sort of tariff scheme in place. They didn't really know quite what to expect, and they still don't. But the fact that VAT is included in it, I think, is a real concern.
There was a question as well to Donald Trump in that press conference about, does this mean sharp pain in the short term for American consumers? And he didn't really give a definitive answer to that. But that is a major worry here. And I guess further afield, the concern is that these reciprocal tariffs could have a significant impact on world trade if it goes ahead, right? I think that is a concern in the UK as well.
Very much so. I mean, the UK, for so many years, we've argued about the pros and cons of Brexit. But the fact right now is that because the UK is not part of the European Union, it can make its own trade relationships with other countries. And so it's able to separate itself from the EU. And that could be an advantage when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump. I mean, the UK has VAT at 20%. So combined with existing tariffs, economists say that in theory, any products the UK companies sell to the US could face a 24% tariff. That would be a massive hit to the UK economy. But the British government is clinging on to the hope that these tariffs that Trump is suggesting will be on a country-by-country basis, hitting only those nations with the biggest trade deficit with America. Now, the UK is not one of those. So they are hoping that this will not apply to them. But they just don't know, because stuff is being announced from the Oval Office and then everyone's scrabbling to work out what it means.
The timing of this announcement was interesting too, wasn't it, given what else was going on in the White House today, Mark?
Yes, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the latest world leader to visit the White House this afternoon. And again, with him, tariffs is going to be front and center of his mind as he visits the US. India imposes the highest tariffs on US exports of any major trading partner, running up a US trade deficit of $45.6 billion. And Trump knows this.
Announced the reductions to India's unfair, very strong tariffs that limit U.S. access into the Indian market very strongly. And really, it's a big problem, I must say.
The dynamic's interesting, isn't it, as well, between Trump and Modi, because they appear to get along quite well, certainly on a personal level. And they have similar political styles too, don't they?
Yeah, both love a rally, both love populist politics, you might argue, and it's all about economic growth. It's all about deregulation. And they share slogans as well. Modi says his vision for India is to make India great again. When it's MAGA plus MIGA, it becomes MEGA, a mega partnership for prosperity. That's his line, not mine.
You'll let him have that one. I also thought it was interesting, Mark, that Elon Musk met with Prime Minister Modi before he even met with Donald Trump.
This was weird. Yeah.
It was weird anyway. There were very weird optics going on in this meeting. Musk was there wearing the same long black coat, same black MAGA cap as he'd worn in the White House earlier this week. He was also accompanied by, I guess you'd call her one of his baby mamas. They'd call her here Siobhan Zilis, who is the parent of some of Elon Musk's children. Two of her children were there. He also had X with him. This is his 4-year-old child who was on Elon Musk's shoulders in the Oval Office.
Can I interrupt? Yeah. Did he name the social media platform after the child, or the child after the social media platform?
I think the social media platform after the child. The takeover of Twitter happened after the birth of X, so I can only assume it came that way around.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, he's been with X, and I think there is a conversation to be had about how he seems to be using X to bolster his public image. Elon Musk is a man who is keenly aware of his public image, and he must see some benefit of having this child with him wherever he goes.
Yeah, and looking like he's enjoying himself and picking his nose as well as he was yesterday.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
And telling Donald Trump he needs to go to the toilet. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
So this meeting was over the road from the White House. President Trump was upending global trade policy over the road in the presidential guest house, which is called Blair House, which is where Prime Minister Modi is staying. That's where they met, right?
Yeah, that's where they met, and they were sort of filmed sitting in front of the US and Indian flags side by side. It felt like a traditional bilap, but of course Musk, while he's a special government employee, he is not an elected official. And I think that's where, I mean, the lines are so blurred here around the conflicts of interest that I'm not even sure there is a line anymore, because on X, Prime Minister Modi was saying that the pair talked about space, about mobility, technology and innovation. But I feel pretty certain that Elon Musk will have brought up Starlink with Modi, because Starlink is his communications company. He's made no secret of the fact that he wants to expand to South Asia. And Modi, I'm sure, will have been talking about space exploration. He's made no secret of the fact that he wants to expand India's space exploration program. So there is yet again a question about potential conflicts of interest there. And Donald Trump was asked, did Elon Musk meet Modi as a representative of the government or as a CEO? And Donald Trump answered, I don't know.
It's kind of like it's in plain sight, isn't
it? It is.
It's like, so what is the answer? I mean, it goes back to the whole debate about Elon Musk, whether you see him as this sort of American success story, and that you would want to have someone who is clearly so successful in business. You'd want to have that sort of person at the heart of government, or whether it's actually massive alarm bells to have an unelected billionaire with his own business interests in that top room of the White House. It's kind of, it is genuinely unprecedented, I think.
And at the very least, should he be declaring his financial disclosures so that at least the American people are in full knowledge of what he's doing and if he is benefiting financially from his relationship with the president and from his role as a special government employee.
Anyway, moving on, squeezed in between the tariffs and the Modi meeting, President Trump somehow, I've no idea how, found time to meet his freshly appointed health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, Democrat senators, Mark, were making speeches on the floor protesting RFK Jr.'s appointment past midnight on Wednesday night, but he did have enough votes to get over the line.
Yes, he's a curious character, isn't he? He's loved, he's loathed, he's controversial, he's flip-flopped on his politics and on his policies. Just remind us about some of that.
Yeah, I call him Reverse Ferret Kennedy Jr. I'm going to keep repeating that line because he changes his mind so often on so many things. But he's part of the Kennedy dynasty, so he's Democrat royalty. And until recently, he was a Democrat himself. But he's perhaps best known for being a vocal vaccine skeptic and holding some deeply controversial views on a range of health issues like fluoride in water, antidepressants, COVID, raw milk. And I'll come back to raw milk in a minute. But just to reflect on the appointment, he is now in control of $1.7 trillion in federal spending. He's in control of vaccine recommendations and food safety, as well as health insurance programs for about half the country. So interesting, to say the very least, to see what he does with his newfound power and responsibility, I guess.
But it's nervous times for people who work in that sector, as it is in many other sectors. Nervous just because of the uncertainty, I guess. What has he said his policies are?
I think vaccines are likely to feature. He's been given plenty of opportunities now to walk back his claims that he made before he was part of government that MMR vaccines, so that's the measles, mumps and rubella vaccines, causes autism, but he hasn't walked back that claim. So the worry among many medical professionals is that the rate of vaccination will fall and measles outbreaks will follow. He's made lots of claims about public health. Some of them are more off the wall than others. He ran on a platform of Make America Healthy Again, and some of that contains pretty unarguably good aspirations. For example, he wants to remove ultra-processed foods from children's school meals. And there is a strong link between ultra-processed foods and heart issues, diabetes, cardiovascular problems. And that, I think, would have sort of broad bipartisan support to try and address that area of public health. But some of his other views we know are more controversial.
Yeah, but some of that stuff is very important. And America, it has a real problem with some of its food, processed food, fast food. And he in that sense, he seems to be, it's laudable that he wants to try and make things better. But I guess combined with that stuff, is his more controversial stuff, like raw milk, right?
Yes, so the normal milk that we would buy on, the supermarket shelves, it has been heated to a certain temperature, which kills viruses and bacteria. But there is a small online community here that says pasteurization actually kills good bacteria, that raw milk is easier to digest, that it contains helpful probiotics. There's actually not a great deal of evidence to support claims that it's beneficial. There is, however, evidence to suggest that drinking it can increase the risk of diseases like salmonella, like E. coli. And I was actually just speaking this afternoon to a man named Mark McAfee, who owns a raw milk farm in central California. And when RFK Jr. is in California, is in LA, he gets his raw milk from McAfee's raw milk farm. And he's incredibly evangelical about the benefits of it. And he wants raw milk to be freely sold across state lines, which at the moment is banned by the FDA, by the Food and Drug Administration because of the dangers of it. It is worth saying McAfee was forced to close his raw milk farm, forced to recall his products because of a recent bird flu outbreak. He's also been involved in several lawsuits because people got salmonella in California last year, saying that it was as a result of his raw milk. So a controversial character.
And of course, there is the bear story. If you want to know the bear story, go back and listen to, I think it's day 11 of Trump 100, and you can hear the bear story, which is just gold.
It's worth listening to. Before we go, Mark, you wanted to talk about someone at the other end of the Republican scale, a real Trump loyalist, right?
Yeah, just briefly, I watched the news conference that Pete Hegseth, the new defense secretary, made in Brussels at NATO. And you might expect that an American defense secretary would save his harshest, most blunt language for his adversaries. Maybe it would be Russia that he wanted to save that language for, but he didn't. I mean, it was aggression and it was almost anger towards his own side, to the Europeans, and for one simple reason: the Americans are fed up with, in their eyes, being ripped off by Europe.
But make no mistake, President Trump will not allow anyone to turn Uncle Sam into Uncle Sucker.
But you know, the curious thing that I thought of today, Martha, is that on one hand, the Americans are saying, come on, Europe, you've got to spend a lot more on defense. We are doing all the heavy lifting. And then in the same breath, Trump is saying he's going to put massive tariffs on Europe, which is going to affect their economies so much that they're going to find it even harder to spend money on defense. So there's a real bind there that Brussels is in, and that many countries around Europe are going to find themselves in.
How do we even begin to digest all this? No sign of the news slowing over the weekend. Thanks as always for listening. And if you are enjoying our daily updates, why not follow the podcast wherever you're listening, so you'll never miss an episode.
And let us know what you think, suggest topics you'd like us to cover, or send us a question. Our email, as always, trump100@sky.uk.
But for now, thanks for joining us on day 26 of Trump 100. See you tomorrow for day 27.
See you then. Bye-bye.